Hi, my name is Brian Coleman, and today I'll be presenting to you employee use of mobile technologies. Just to touch a little bit quickly on the mobile revolution that a lot of people, or well, almost pretty much everybody, feels that our culture, society is experiencing, not only in the United States but around the world. Over the last 6 or 7 years, we have really seen a huge influx in the number of mobile devices and the amount of wireless data consumption across the globe. And during my research, I came across one graphic and a quote that I found to be very interesting. The first is a quote from John Donovan, who is AT&T's senior executive vice president for technology and network operations. In February 2005, which is almost 2 years ago now, Mr. Donovan was quoted as saying that wireless data traffic had grown 20,000% in the last 5 years on AT&T's wireless networks. 20,000% is a staggering number, and if you line up the timeline of 2012 or 2012 and go back 5 years, that's going to put you in 2007, which lines up with around the time of the iPhone launch, which most people remember. AT&T was the exclusive carrier at that point for the iPhone. We actually had a case earlier in the semester about that, but I thought that was just an unbelievable statistic, and given that their wireless data traffic demand has grown that much in such a short period of time, it makes you wonder how a company like that keeps up with the demand. And then the graphic I have below is something that Cisco released, and it's essentially just a forecast looking from 2011 to 2016, the amount of wireless data they expect, or the increase in wireless data they expect to see. Currently, like right now in 2013, we're at 2.4 exabytes per month, and that number is expect to, I guess, pretty much from now till then would increase by 4 times to 2016. But if you look at the range on their graph, 2011 to 2016, they expected an increase of 18 times the growth, which is just an unbelievable amount. But felt that was somewhat relative to our discussion, so I figured I would share it in my presentation. But moving on to the article, our authors listed some advantages of mobile devices that they felt were very important. First was that they allowed employees to be connected 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They allowed for increased flexibility, allowed for improved coordination. They provided several ways to communicate, email, text message, and of course phone calls. And then they also allowed for pleasure enjoyment as well. But giving the increased connectivity and availability that we see that are considered as advantages of mobile devices, you also have to look at what impact does that have on your work-life balance. Elevated expectations of availability, blurring boundaries of work and personal time, coordinating among coworkers becomes more complicated, and feeding knowledge workers personal compulsions. So these are the impacts that our authors felt were the most significant, and in my personal opinion, I believe that the elevated expectations of availability leads to blurring of the boundary between work and personal time, and it's one that I myself have experienced and do experience, pretty much day to day with the work that I do. And just to continue on with our authors reading here, the 3 perspectives of work-life relationships. I found this to be very interesting. In this article, or this graphic came straight from the reading. The 3 perspectives are compartmentalized, which are those people who totally separate work and personal life. Overlapping, which allows for some spillover of work and personal life into one another. And then lastly is encompassing, which would be those people whose work is their life and they would not be able to function without their work. And I would probably consider myself to fall in the middle there in the overlapping perspective. I do some work at home outside of the workplace, and I don't mind it as long as it doesn't get to be too much. And then some of the strategies our authors suggested for work-life balance issues in mobile technology Compensation, negotiation, integration. Compensation is essentially just providing additional compensation for those employees who don't mind being connected all the time. Negotiation is a strategy where the employee and the company essentially negotiate lines or some ground rules for what the expectations are of the employee to be connected outside the workplace. Integration is one that I would probably fall into. Is it typically enables employees to seamlessly move between work and personal life domains at all times. I wouldn't say at all times, but during the day, sometimes after hours, I would find myself in moving between work and personal life fairly frequently. And then lastly, a protection strategy. That would be where the management of the company would essentially create rules or policies that would protect some employees from being expected to interact with other employees around the clock. So essentially, if you had encompassing employees, they would not interact with those other employees who were compartmentalized, per se. So since there are two very different perspectives there, they would kind of set ground rules that would prevent those from interacting outside normal business hours. And the two companies that I selected were Google and Cisco Systems. Google's a little bit of a different company. They offer a lot of perks. Most people have probably seen on the news or on the internet or stories written about them. They're considered to be one of the very best companies to work for anywhere in the world. And I specifically looked at the Mountain View campus, which is their headquarters, and I listed some of the perks that they get here for their time. These are compensation for being, basically working all the time. The first one I thought was really interesting was Google has a fleet of luxury buses that they use to pick up their software engineers from home and take them to work. All the buses are equipped with Wi-Fi and workspaces. So immediately upon boarding the bus, Google employees can sit down, begin work, and can actually get some work done before they actually physically arrive on Google's property. When they're on Google's campus, they have free meals at any of the 19 cafes on the campus. They have free exercise gyms. They have ability to get a massage. They have napping areas. You've probably seen the pictures of the little nap pods that they have for employees to take a nap during the day. They have swimming pools for additional exercise. On-campus laundromat, so they can get some laundry done while they're at work. They have a daycare for those employees that have children. Doctor's office if you're feeling ill, and then lastly, they have very flexible work hours. Now, most people would say, and it's pretty obvious, that all of these perks you have to be at work to take part of. But the fact that Google provides these perks, and given that they're in a campus environment, the employees really are mobile and they really are connected all the time, because Google has many different workspaces throughout their campus. So they're always connected regardless of where they are at work or if they're on their way to work, and they spend a lot of time at work. But they do have all the perks that really gives them no real reason to leave work, which is what Google's trying to accomplish. They're trying to keep them at work as much as possible, keep them connected all the time, give them whatever they need, so they really don't have any excuse for leaving, and that they work and they get everything that they need out of their employees, and the employees get a lot of perks. So it makes it very easy for them to stay at work, and get the job done. But Google is probably I would say, very unique. It's the opposite end of the spectrum from most companies that would fall into the category of expecting their employees to be available all the time and working outside normal hours. And I would consider Cisco, the next company, to fall more inside the standard of what you would expect to see from most companies. And Cisco does encourage mobility of their employees. They essentially, the mobility offers gives Cisco the ability to offer flexible schedules for maybe working moms or other employees that have other personal needs outside of work. Cisco has multiple locations around the world from which you could work if you're a traveling employee, or if you like to travel for vacation but you need to get some work done while you're gone. They have multiple locations around the country, or around the world, that you can get some work done from. So if you're from U.S., you're visiting Europe, you may be able to visit one of their locations in Europe somewhere. Which is a fairly unique perk. Work from that office. But probably the biggest incentive, in my opinion, is that Cisco allows employees to telecommute, and that 63% of Cisco's employees do telecommute, and that the average Cisco employee telecommutes 2 days a week. And of that 2 days a week, the time saved by telecommuting, 60% of that time is spent working, and 40% of that time is spent on personal time. So by allowing employees to telecommute, Cisco is getting 60% of that time, which they wouldn't otherwise get. They're getting a return of work from that employee, and the employee also is getting additional personal time. So it's really efficient. It's an advantage for the company and the employee, and I think that that's something that more and more companies are looking to. My employer allows me to work from home, and I typically work from home 2 to 3 days a week, and they get more work out of me when I work from home, and I obviously get more personal time because I'm at home. When work's over, there's no commute involved. And I did feel like these were all examples of integration strategy that accommodates employees with an overlapping perspective. So I felt all of their perks from Cisco fit those two theories there. One thing I did notice, or I did stumble across while doing my research, was that there was a recent panel discussion in San Francisco at the Commonwealth Club, which included representatives from Google, Cisco, and Twitter. And the discussion was related to their preparation for the Generation Y young workforce that was, graduating college, entering the workforce now. And essentially the topic of the conversation was that the tech companies like Google, Cisco, and Twitter were considering adjusting their business practices to embrace the latest generation of tech-dependent workers, being Generation Y, that they communicated in such a different way from prior generations that they're looking at some of the things that they could do to help make the transition into the workforce easier for those employees. And that they also stated, the leaders of those three tech companies, that mobile technology was critical to achieving a work-life blend for those Generation Y employees and taking advantage of their new communication skills. And then lastly, in closing, I feel that Google and Cisco offer their employees incentives such as mobility, telecommuting, and perks to make their work more convenient and efficient, and that targeting a work-life blend allows for more employees to mix work and life as needed to achieve professional and personal goals.